Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashely Liliana and I'm a Latina who has lived, traveled, and volunteered abroad. So today's video is called What You Need to Know About Traveling in Chile. So it's kind of like a part two, the sequel to a video that I made a couple of weeks ago called What You Need to Know About Traveling to Chile. That video discussed more about the requirements that you need, the documents that you need to enter the country. This video is more about the rules within the country and how those rules kind of affect travel and day-to-day life. So this video is really good for anyone who's either thinking about moving abroad or traveling to Chile in the foreseeable future. I'm going to show you some of the websites that I find really useful to get certain information, kind of how to navigate those websites a little bit, and also just some tips and resources that I find really helpful in day-to-day life here that help me and hopefully will help you. Okay, so before we get into the video, there are just a few pieces of information and words that I kind of want to just go over at the beginning. Some words you'll hear me use interchangeably with English and Spanish, and just some information that kind of applies across the board that you should know. So the first thing to note is that Chile has a toque de queda, and a toque de queda translates to a curfew. And this curfew is every single day from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So meaning between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. you're not allowed to go outside. You'll also hear me say either Paso or fase a lot of the times interchangeably, and what that means is phase. So Chile has a paso a paso plan, and this plan is how they are handling and managing the pandemic, and under that plan there are 4 phases, 4 pasos or 4 fases, and each one has certain things that you can and you can't do. I'll get into that in a little bit, but just keep that in mind. If you hear the word fase or paso, it means phase. The next thing is you're going to be hearing me say the word permisos a lot, and permiso means permit. So again, later on in the video you'll understand what that means, but for certain things you need a permiso to go either out to get groceries, and depending for what it is and what function, you need a certain type of permiso. So I'll show you kind of that website. Paso a Paso plan is their plan in handling and managing the pandemic. And there's a lot of information on there, but as a traveler or someone who's considering moving here in the foreseeable future, as a foreigner, I want to draw kind of your attention to the 4 phases that are listed on that website. We're going to go through each phase, and I'm going to share with you some relevant information for each one of what you can do, what you can't do, and what is functioning in that particular phase. So these phases, it's not like Chile, the whole entire country is in one phase and then it's in another phase. It doesn't work that way. Each comuna, think of a comuna as a neighborhood or as a city, and each one can be in a different phase. For example, I am in a comuna that's in phase 1, which is the first phase. It is total quarantine basically, and I'll get into more details of what that is. But just to get an idea, I'm in phase 1, but another comuna, the neighboring one, could be in phase 2, and that means different things for my comuna and for their comuna. So now I'm going to go through each phase and share some information that I think is relevant for, again, anyone who is considering coming to Chile to travel or moving here in the foreseeable future. So let's start with fase 1 or phase 1, cuarentena, which is currently the phase that the area that I'm staying in is in. I'll let you know or keep you updated how it's going in cuarentena. So let's take a look and see what it is that is prohibited and allowed in this phase. What can't you do? So you can't have any social gatherings, outdoor or indoor. It's not allowed. You can't travel to any other areas. There is no outdoor seating at any cafe or restaurant. Bars, clubs, gyms, malls are all closed. What can you do? Must stay home. You're not allowed to be outside. You can only go outside if you have to do any grocery shopping, or you have to do kind of any errands that are appointment only. So you have an appointment that is scheduled prior and you have proof of that, you can show that and you're able to go out to that appointment. Again, you're allowed to leave to buy groceries. You're allowed 2 permisos per week. Each of these permisos is for the duration of 2 hours. So you'll go to this website that I will show you and you fill out all the information and you get a permiso, which is just, you'll get like a digital version of it or PDF of it, And this is for if any cop, stops and asks, what you're doing outside, you can show them this permiso that allows you to be out for 2 hours to get groceries or things that are essential. So you can also walk or exercise outside from 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. The thing about this though is that this activity that you're doing outside between 7 and 8:30 cannot require you to use the bus, the metro, or a car to get there. So if you have to use any of those forms of transportation, then you cannot do this activity. Scroll down here, what can function, what can operate in my area in phase 1. So anything that is basically essential. So hospitals, clinics, supermarkets, any store that sells essential goods can be open. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that restaurants, yes, are closed for seating, outdoor or indoor, but they can be open for delivery. I'm going to show you now the permiso that you need in order to be able to leave your apartment or your home or wherever it is that you're staying to get groceries. So remember that in phase 1, you are not allowed to go out for anything really. The only thing that you're allowed to go out for is for groceries, and what you need to get in order to do that is a permiso, a permit that lasts for up to 2 hours, and this allows you to move around your comuna to get the groceries and the essential goods that you need. So this website is the website you're going to need to go to in order to get those permits. So if you scroll down here, so this one here, it says Permiso Temporal Individual de Desplazamiento General. You go down to Iniciar Trámite, so to start your request. It says here that the permit is valid for up to 2 hours, so just remember, in phase 1, you get 2 permits a week, and each of those are valid for up to 2 hours. You'll click down here below where it says Extranjeros, foreigner, if you're a foreigner, and you begin the request. I'm not going to go into it because it's quite self-explanatory. So let's talk about phase 2, transición, which means transition. So the big difference here that I want to point out, because it affects a few things, is that in phase 2, from Monday through Friday, you are free to move around. You do not have to stay in your home. You can go out, take the metro, take the bus, go to a different part of the city. You can go to the mall. You can go to a restaurant that's only outdoor seating. So you have a bit more flexibility in phase 2, Monday through Friday. Now, Saturday and Sunday is cuarentena, very similar to phase 1, meaning that you are not allowed to leave your house or apartment, wherever it is that you're staying. Look at what it is that you can do from Monday through Friday. So you can go to work or other areas. You can go to cafes or restaurants that have outdoor seating options, so no indoor seating. The seating, though, is a max of 4 people per group. Indoor gatherings, so let's say you're going to a friend's house or something like that, you can, but there is a max on that. It cannot be with more than 5 people. You can do outdoor activities or sports Monday through Friday with up to 10 people in phase 2. Malls are open, but gyms are closed in phase 2. Things that can function, supermarkets, malls, clothing stores, all of that stuff can be open. There's a lot more flexibility in phase 2, Monday through Friday. One thing that I want to know about the restaurant, if you are going to a restaurant for outdoor seating in phase 2 or in phase 3 or 4, currently right now, again, like I mentioned before, with the national curfew that is at 10 p.m., restaurants, cafes, anything like that have to be closed by 8 p.m. So if you're going out for drinks with friends or to a restaurant, just know that they will be closing at 8 o'clock. To phase 3 or fase 3, preparación, which translates to preparation. This one is, out of the previous ones, has a bit more flexibility. The biggest difference with here is that on Saturday and Sunday, you don't have to do the quarantine, the cuarentena, about some of the things that you can and can't do and whatnot. So what you can do in phase 3 is you can have gatherings, outdoor or indoor, up to 15 people. You can do outdoor sports with up to 25 people. You can do outdoor dining and indoor dining, and it could be with up to a group of 6 people. So what you cannot do is be eating at a restaurant with more than 6 people. Let's go down here to what can function, what can work. Again, like the previous phases that I mentioned, bars and clubs are closed, and that will remain closed even in the next phase. Gyms are open, so that's the big difference here. Gyms can be open and malls are open, or just any store that's considered non-essential can be open. You can do activities outside. Phase 3, also in terms of travel, in phase 3, it's kind of the best one out of 1 and 2 to be in if you're trying to travel, because it's one that you don't necessarily need a lot of permisos and things like that. So if you're going from a comuna that's in phase 3, going to another area that's in phase 3, you don't need actually a lot of permits and things like that, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Last phase that we're going to talk about is Paso 4, phase 4, called Apertura Inicial, which is like initial opening. I have not experienced phase 4. I have experienced 1, 2, and 3 being here in Chile, but phase 4 I have not. So let's click on phase 4 and see what it is that you can and cannot do. Obviously, phase 4 is the one that you have the most flexibility and freedom in terms of what it is that you can do to what you cannot do. So let's take a look. You can have gatherings with up to 30 people. You can do outdoor sports with up to 50 people. You can travel within Chile to regions 3 and 4 without a permiso. So again, for travel, this is a really good one to be starting from. Gyms and malls are open. What is closed, again, bars and clubs, that remains closed in 1, 2, 3, and again in 4. What is open, again, everything that has been mentioned before. So let's say you're not positive in what phase your comuna is in, right? You're wondering, you missed the news or something, and you have no idea what phase you're in. So there's this website called enquefase.cl, and this is a great website because all you need to know is the comuna that you're in, and you just search that comuna up and it will give you the information and it will tell you in what phase your comuna is in. So I'm going to show you really quickly what that website looks like and how to figure out what phase your comuna is in. You click over here, it says to select una comuna, so to pick your area where you're staying. So for this purpose, we're going to pick Providencia. Providencia is like a neighborhood in the metropolitan area. So we're going to click Providencia. See that Providencia is in phase 2. So if we remember correctly, phase 2 means that from Monday through Friday, you're able to go out, you're able to kind of move around easily. So this site is really good to kind of figure out where it is that you're at. So now I'm going to show you how you can use this site for travel purposes and kind of to see what it is, the permits and the things that you need to be going from one comuna, one area to another. So here we had desde Providencia, which is traveling from Providencia, and then we had hacia Providencia, so if you're traveling to a certain area. So we're going to go to the first one. For this example here, we're going to put in Zapallar. Zapallar is about, I believe, 2, maybe a little bit more hours away from Santiago by bus. It might be a little bit more than that. So we click. We can see that Providencia is in phase 2, but Zapallar is in phase 3. So we need 2 different permits or permisos to be able to travel. So if you go here, again, this website is the same one that you're going to need to get any of your permisos, really. And we're going to scroll down. So up until March, I believe 31st, you can get a permiso de vacaciones, and you're only allowed to get 1, basically, in the summer season here. So if you used it 1 time, that was basically it. And so if you click here, you will click option 3, it's foreigner, non-resident, and it will take you to here, and then you'll fill out all of the information. We need another permiso. The second one you're going to need is the pasaporte sanitario. So if you traveled to Chile recently, this should look quite familiar. There's actually 2 when you went to this website, which is the C19. There's one for people entering Chile, and there's one for like domestic travel. This is the one for domestic travel, and it's really similar. Another example really quickly, and we're going to put in another area that's in phase 3 because I want to show kind of the difference of the things that you need for one and not for the other. And it's quite easy. You don't actually need the permiso from the other site from here. You only need 1 permiso, which is the pasaporte sanitario. And it's this one here. So that's kind of like the nice thing about phase 3. So I wanted to give you kind of a real life example now of what that means. There's a dog. So about a month ago, we did a trip to the north of Chile, to La Serena. And our comuna, where we were leaving, our origin, was in fase 3, in phase 3. And the area we were going to was in phase 2, La Serena. So what that meant was that Monday through Friday, we had to follow the rules and regulations of that comuna. We were able to go out to eat, outdoor seating, of course. We were even able to go to the beach and walk around freely. But if we had decided to stay there until the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, what that meant was that we needed to follow the rules for Saturday and Sunday in phase 2, which means total quarantine, where you're not allowed to go outside, only for essential items. So just keep that in mind, that when you are traveling another comuna in a different phase, you need to follow the rules of the phase that comuna is in. When do they usually kind of announce these changes? They announce these changes every single week, if there are any changes. Most of the time there are either comunas are moving up kind of in phase 1, 2, 3, or 4, or they're going backwards. Usually you'll have about 3 to 4 days before the change takes into effect. So for example, when we were told our comuna had gone from phase 2 back to phase 1, it was announced on Monday, and on Thursday it took into effect. So there were about 3 days in between that to kind of get things organized and all set. But every week they do announce it, so just keep an eye on it. Usually it's on Sundays. Sometimes they do announce it also on Mondays. From my experience, that's kind of the only times I really know of. If you miss it, again, you can go into the En Que Fase and find out in which phase your comuna is in. There's also another resource that I highly recommend if you are traveling or just thinking about moving here. It's a Facebook group called Discover Chile, if you're not a part of it already. I would request and join it if I were you. One of the administrators of the Facebook group puts up the changes every time there is one. So it's a really great resource to get also kind of that new information about comunas if you're not sitting there watching the news. I also recommend following any of Chile's news outlets. I personally follow an account called Bio Bio, and they always put the new changes that were made. So that's the one I follow. I'll link that one below if anyone is interested in that one. But there are different ones. Facebook group is totally fine, but there's some extra places that you can kind of find all that new information. It's always the best thing to do is be an informed traveler and know what are the rules and regulations if you are coming here or if you are moving here. Okay, so in terms of tips, there are really 3 things that I want to leave you with that I think apply to anyone who's actually traveling right now or moving abroad during these times. The first thing is to be an informed traveler, and I cannot stress this enough. Do your research, know what is required to enter the country, know what are the rules and the regulations in that country, because those things can affect your travel, can affect your day-to-day life. So just make sure you are an informed traveler. The second thing is know your comfortability level, and what I mean by that is, what are you comfortable with? You know, things do change day to day, week to week, depending on the country. Here, they change week to week. Know what it is that you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with maybe these changes happening weekly, maybe reconsider coming or moving here, etc. So just know what you're comfortable with. The third thing I would say is manage your expectations. Things are changing weekly. Sometimes they can change daily. Depending on the country, here it's weekly. You know, when I came here, I was in phase 3 and then went to phase 2, and now we're in phase 1. And all of those things mean so many different things and how it affects day-to-day life and travel in the country. So just manage your expectations. It was like a whole mindset shift. You know, when I was preparing to come here, I knew that I was coming during these times. I knew that they had certain rules and regulations and that there was a possibility of going from phase 3, potentially going back to phase 1. And that is a reality. It has happened. So manage your expectations of what your experience traveling abroad or moving abroad will be like for the foreseeable future, because things are still changing. And with that, I've concluded this video of what you need to know, kind of part 2. So if you have any questions on any of the information that I have mentioned, please leave that down below in the comments. Also, maybe you have traveled to Chile recently or are currently living here and watching this video, and you have additional tips or resources or information that I would miss that you feel is important. Also, feel free to share that down below in the comments. If you want to support, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the like button on this video. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, ciao!